ain't going no to Nineveh. Get me a ticket and sail out of Miami and go where I want to go. You can't tell me where to go. That's what many of us do. We go in the way, in the direction that we want to go. So there is disparity in where he's supposed to go. God's way always lead upward. Reading the New Testament, Jerusalem is an upward journey. Doing God's work, his will, it's an upward journey. And anytime we disobey God and go in a direction that's counter to God, it's a downward path. Watch the text. It says, God says, go east. Jonah says, I'm going west. God says, Jonah, go to Nineveh. Jonah says, I'm going to Tarshish. Can't stop me. I'm going to do what I want to do. Watch Jonah's path. Verse 3. I want you to hear the language of the text. He went down to Joppa. Verse 4. He went down into the hold of the ship. Verse 15 says he went down into the sea. Verse 7 says he went down into the belly of the great fish. Anytime we go against God's direction, it's going to be down. I don't care how smart you think you are. And Jonah, it says that he's doing this to flee the presence of the Lord. How can you get away from somebody who's everywhere? And that's what we struggle with. We struggle. See, let me tell you, I've only been pastoring for 16 years. I'm still considered a young pastor. And I talk to other young pastors when they're going through crisis, they start looking for another church. So I said, man, listen, wherever you go, trouble's gonna be waiting on you. I said, so at the sight of trouble, you can't flee because you were in fear. What you got to do is exercise faith. Faith will give you strength to stay focused. Faith will give you strength to keep a strong foothold and not be moved. A lot of folk, I'm mad at the church, so they just gonna go to another church, and every time they just bouncing from one place to another because they are mad and they don't speak to me. They're not gonna speak to you in the next church you go to. So I don't like that. You're not gonna like everything, because guess what? The church, it's made up of folk just like you. And just to show you now, when we struggle, look at what man does. Man realizes that he struggles. So Jonah is in a struggle. He's struggling with God. He simply says, I am a prophet, but guess what? Because I'm a prophet, I still don't want to do what you're telling me to do. This is for the super saints that's wearing pseudo wings and pseudo halos that you put on this morning before you showed up. If you would be honest, you've struggled with God. You've struggled with what God has wanted you to do. You've struggled with where God has wanted you to go. You've struggled with the work that God has assigned to your hand. You've struggled with the way that God has wanted to use you, and you've tried to flee from him by getting hooked up with other people, by going in different places, by doing other stuff. But let me tell you something, when God has a providential plan and purpose for your life, you can't escape him. You can't get away from him. And you might as well face your struggle head on and say, God, I'm struggling with what you're saying and what you're directing me to do, but it's through the struggle that I'm transformed, because it's through the struggle that I have to depend on God. It's through the struggle that God develops my faith. It's through the struggle that I learn to deal with me. Because your struggle will expose who you are. Jonah's struggle exposed his disobedience. Jonah's struggle, it exposed his heart. And you know what's so interesting? It's biblical characters that we're going to talk about over the course of these next few weeks, how they struggled with God. God used them, but they struggled. Jonah said, I'm going to leave. I'm going to quit. I'm doing what I want to do. But let me tell you how gracious our God is. And this is where I'm going to close. I'm going to close by telling you how gracious our God is in our struggle. Now, he sees Jonah as the one that he has providentially picked, planned, and has purposed to go to Nineveh. Jonah says, as if he's bigger than God, tell you what I'll do. I'm going to go to Joppa and get me a ticket. I'm going to get on the ship and I'm going to go to a safe place. And when I get on this ship, it's going to take me on this 2,000-mile journey. I'm going to go completely in the opposite direction because of my struggle with God. So, since I'm struggling with God, I'm just going to get away from him. Well, let me show you how gracious God is.